Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for this workshop on how to make a face oil. Um, it has been a journey for me to get to this point in my life where I'm able to teach you guys all about how to make face oils and what makes them very unique and special, how you can dial them in and fine tune them to meet your needs. It's such a blessing, and sort of my own journey with this has always been from passion with plants and organic skincare. I struggled with my skin a lot growing up. So once I started finding my way into this formulation world, I studied with plant medicine men and women, and I created my own line. And I'm now in the process of getting an organic formulation degree diploma as well. So that's a little bit about me. I'm excited to get going on this adventure into making your own face oil. So without further ado, what is a face oil? A face oil, I'm going to show you this lovely little bottle, usually comes in a bottle with a dropper. And the primary ingredients of a face oil are going to be carrier oils, as well as oil-soluble extracts, possibly essential oils, and occasionally there are botanical influences as well. But as you can see, as I'm rubbing it into my hands, I did a whole dropper, and look at all that moisture and wonderfulness. So this moisture is a part of what makes a face oil. When we think about skincare, we are thinking about how do we condition the skin? How do we add nutrients into the skin? And what's really exciting about face oils is they're very accessible to each of us. We have a lot of ingredients in our homes, even in our kitchen cabinets, that we can pull from for this experiment here today. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what the primary functions of the skin are. So here we go. Our skin, the primary functions of our skin are actually three parts. We have, it's the largest organ of our body. So as you can see, our skin covers every inch of our body, creating a layer of protection. Without our skin, we would literally dry up. So it's really important as we think about formulating a face oil, how do we maintain moisture for our skin? It also is very important in cell renewal. So we have three parts that make up our skin, three primary parts. The epidermis is this layer here, and it is the topmost layer of the skin that you can actually physically see. And what the epidermis is going to do is it's going to hold the body's contents together. It is also going to be the protection from infection, as well as for maintaining moisture. The dermis is the second layer right underneath here. And the dermis is going to be a layer that is about how our skin produces sebum, which is going to help balance the oil production in the skin. It is going to be the area where we are releasing toxins. So if our dermis layer of skin isn't healthy, then we are not able to release toxic buildup. And then the skin will present things like acne or even like dermal sensitivities like eczema, psoriasis will present because the dermis isn't doing what it should. And then the hypodermis is this third layer. It's this bottom layer of the skin, primary layer of the skin. And what that is going to do is it's going to be the regenerative component of the skin, the primary regenerative point. Within the dermis, we've got our keratinocytes, our Langerhans cells, and our melanocytes. The melanocytes are these really cool little red areas that sort of run throughout the keratinocytes, which are these building block looking guys. The keratinocytes are going to be the proteins, they're going to be more like the structural aspects, and then the melanocytes are going to be what actually help create protection on the skin. So when you see different skin tones, it's not that someone has more of a melanin content. It is actually that the melanin in their skin is more active to protect their skin. This little funny looking guy, this purple sprawly dude, is the Langerhans cell. And this is a really important part of this epidermis layer. It is going to reach out and grab all of the nasty stuff that may be laying around in our skin, the toxins, and it's going to pull, attach to those little tentacles and pull through the lymphatic system to release and create more glowing, beautiful skin. In the dermis, we have very cool things like the hair muscle, the sebaceous glands, the sweat duct glands, the nerve and nerve endings. So this is an area that is really important for wound healing, and as well as the hair muscle is going to be that part that alerts us that something's going on our skin. It alerts us to sensitivities like cold and hot. The hypodermis, that third near the bottom layer of the skin, is going to have things like these apocyte cells. So just in sort of a little, if you want to screenshot this, you can. This is sort of a little reminder sheet of what the different functionings are of these different layers of the skin. And why this is important is for when we start actually designing our skincare oil. So we're going to hop into the different kinds of oils that we are going to work with today. And when you start thinking about how you want to design a face oil, it's important to have the little basic bit of understanding as far as how the skin functions so that you can have a clear idea of when you put an oil on your skin, what's going on. How is it affecting your skin? So really, really fun, important things to think about when we first start looking at different kinds of oils. For example, you remember when I put that oil on my skin? See how it's retained a little light dewy moisture? This is the oil barrier on the skin. So this is completely normal. When people say, I don't like face oils because they leave my skin feeling oily. Well, they're not supposed to soak in right away. They're actually supposed to hang out on that top layer of the skin that we now know is called the epidermis. And it's going to slowly penetrate over time down into those deeper layers. So when we start first thinking about what kind of oils we're interested in using, I'm going to get a white sheet of paper so that you guys can actually see these colors of these different oils. When we first start thinking about how we want the oil to feel on our skin, every oil is going to penetrate at a different rate. So my very first bit of information and sort of guidance for you today is to think about, what do you want out of this product? Do you want something that's going to absorb a little more quickly, feel a little bit more nutrient dense? And the best ways of doing that are to actually start exploring with how these different oils feel on the skin. So when we first look at grapeseed oil, as you can see, has a beautiful little green tinge, especially in comparison to this jojoba oil, which is more golden looking. You can even see that one may look more viscous or thick than the other. And actually, jojoba oil is not so much an oil as it is a liquid wax. So it's going to have a slightly thicker feel initially on the skin, but it's going to penetrate the skin in a way that is very similar to our natural sebaceous glands, those sebum producing glands. This is an oil, jojoba oil is an oil that's great for most skin types. It's going to be a really popular one for acne prone skin, as it will help to regulate and balance moisture as well as bacteria. The grapeseed is going to feel a little bit thinner when you first apply it to the skin. It actually even has sort of a dry-like feel to it. But also a really nice cooling sensation. And this beautiful hint of green that's actually in that bottle, in the oil there, is a buildup of chlorophyll. So chlorophyll, when you're looking at any carrier oil and you start to see that little tinge of green, chlorophyll is so fun because it's going to be an added antioxidant boost, a wonderful addition as far as repairing the skin and wound healing. And then we have something like avocado. Avocado has this beautiful, rich golden hue. Or I'm sorry, not avocado. This is olive oil, not avocado. Has this beautiful, rich golden hue. And olive oil, this time of year, for those of us that are starting to have that colder climate sort of feel, is going to be one of the richer ones to work with. This is sunflower, and sunflower is going to have one of the lightest colors initially. The coloring overall, the reason I keep bringing it up is that that is the nutrients that is presenting itself to the eye. So it's the first thing that we see. What are we attracted to? And I love to encourage people when they're formulating, when they're working with creating a beautiful product, to really feel into their senses. So apply those oils to your skin one at a time, different areas, and see how it soaks into the skin. See how it makes you feel. Maybe the smell is something that you really enjoy and are feeling that needs to be in my face oil. Go with your senses. Your senses are going to tell you the first bits of those hidden wisdoms and information when it comes to understanding the oils. For your essential oils, actually, a face oil in itself, again, going back to, it's a combination of carrier oils, essential oils sometimes, and botanicals. One fun way that you can actually add some botanical nutrients into your face oil at home is by doing a double boiler infusion or a cold infusion of herbs in oil. So I'm going to show you, this is just a mason jar, and I have filled it with dry plant matter. And you can choose things that you are familiar with in your home, such as like rose petals, chamomile, or maybe ingredients that you have seen present in skincare before, like burdock root, something that is intriguing to you. I like to also suggest that then maybe you find a great botanical book to understand those botanicals and how they might benefit the skin. Basically, the way that you do a botanical infusion is you're going to do about 1 part of plant matter to 2 parts oil. And let this sit somewhere on a windowsill or somewhere darker, depending on how you want to do it, for about a month. And after a month, you're going to strain this through a filter. And what this does is it adds an added boost of botanical nutrients to your final product. Things that are going to be more supportive for maybe connective tissue, or really adding a nice softening effect on the skin. You can do that with those botanicals as well. And then you have your essential oils. Essential oils are kind of an extra when it comes to designing a face oil. They are going to add a beautiful aroma that allows you to sensually feel into the product and also into your own unique beauty. But then they also have their own bits of wisdom, as well as medicinal qualities for each oil, depending on what you want to use. And today I'd love to introduce you to some of my favorites: patchouli, lavender, tea tree, as well as palmarosa. And the reason I've picked these ones out is some of them are familiar and some of them are going to be really easy when you first start working with essential oils in face oil making. Palmarosa is fantastic. Palmarosa is actually from a grass, but it smells a little bit like a rose. So for those of you that want to go full on the expensive smells of rose, you can go for Palmarosa, and it'll save you a lot in the beginning when you're learning. Palmarosa's benefits are great for balancing the sebum. Again, I keep bringing this up. That is our natural sort of moisture content in the skin. It's also going to have a protective quality. Palmarosa is also something that is really wonderful at helping to overall sort of regenerate the cellular tissue. Tea tree. A note on tea tree. A lot of people end up putting way too much tea tree into a product. You don't want to add too much of an oil like tea tree when you first start working with skincare making, because it's actually got some desensitizing qualities. It's great for cooling things like inflammation, or if you have some acne breakouts that are feeling a little red, it's going to be great at helping calm those things down. It's also great great antibacterial and antiseptic qualities, but pairing it with something that has a little bit more of a softer effect on the skin or less abrasive effect, like patchouli or lavender, is going to be a really good way to go. Patchouli, since I've brought it up, patchouli has got that wonderful earthy tone. And when you're working with essential oils, it's really helpful to bring in something that feels a little earthier to help balance out the profile of the aroma, but it also holds the aroma to the skin and within the product a bit better. Patchouli is a fantastic essential oil for things like dermatitis or eczema. It's really fantastic for actual acne control as well. And lavender and patchouli, we're going to go lavender next. Both of these are so nice for anti-anxiety relief, for sleep help. So a great face oil for nighttime relief. Lavender is also something that is going to have antibacterial effect. So say you're formulating a face oil for acne prone skin. I would say starting, if you know somebody has sensitive skin or you're formulating for yourself, go with lavender over tea tree. It's a softer, more soothing comfort for the skin. So now that I've introduced you to some of my favorite ingredients, I'm going to actually walk you through how to think about formulating your oil blend. Okay, so when we first start out, and I am going to use a scale today. However, I also am going to tell you how you can do this at home with a teaspoon measure. So if you don't have a scale, you can do this with a teaspoon, half teaspoon, one of those. Stay away from tablespoon because teaspoons are easier to measure. And I will put it in the chat, 6 teaspoons is equal to an ounce. So 6 teaspoons is equal to 1 ounce. And this is a nice measurement to have in place so that you can sort of consider how to measure out at home if you don't have that scale. For me, I actually want to formulate something for myself to start using. The weather here in Maryland is getting really dry and really cold, and I'd love to have something to sort of soothe my skin at night. So with that in mind, that's my first goal. That's the first thing you want to think about is what is my goal with this face oil? Today, I want something that's going to be nourishing, that's going to be hydrating, and really give my skin a nice dewy glow to go to sleep with. So I am going to go for a combination of olive oil, avocado oil, as well as jojoba oil, and sunflower. I'm going to go for 4 different ones. And for those of you at home, I suggest pulling things out of your kitchen cabinet to start with. That way you really have a nice base to work with. It's surprising what's in there. But for this first one, the reason I'm picking these 4 oils, olive oil, again, is going to have that really rich, wonderful, hydrating feel. So for this one, I'm going to do what the equivalent of 2 teaspoons would be. If you're using a scale, you can do 0.33 ounces of olive oil. So I'm a little over, that's okay, we're roughly in there. That's where those teaspoon measures are really going to be helpful. You're not going to go over as easily. For the second part of this oil, I want the primary focus to be something that absorbs really nicely into the skin. Avocado oil is this clearer colored oil. Avocado oil is going to absorb a little bit more easily into the skin. Because I'm relatively sensitive, this is something that is going to be great for me specifically. So again, as you're thinking about, well, I know I want some rich hydrating elements in there, but also they're a little sensitive. The person I'm making this oil for is a little sensitive. Avocado oil has a wonderful sort of calming effect, cooling effect, and it doesn't leave a super heavy feel on the skin. And because I'm going for that olive oil as one of my first ingredients, I want to balance it out with something that feels a little bit more absorbent. So for this one, I am going to go for twice as much as I did for my olive oil. So this is going to be 4 teaspoons or 0.66 ounces of avocado oil. So I'm really thinking about overall, this is going to have a slightly more balanced feel once it's on the skin. Again, remember I have 2 parts of the olive oil and 4 parts of the avocado oil at this point. So 4 teaspoons avocado oil, 2 teaspoons of olive oil. The next thing I want to think about is I like to have something that creates a little bit of a balancing factor for blemishes and breakouts. I have hormonal acne. I've had it my entire life. So something that is fantastically brilliant for that is the jojoba oil. So I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of jojoba oil in there, and then I'm going to actually feel what the oil feels like to my skin. So 1 teaspoon of jojoba oil, or the scale measurement would be 0.16. So 0.16 of jojoba. And once that's in there, I am going to switch you back over. Once that's in there, I'm going to give it a little swirl to have it mix. And I'm doing this in a measuring cup that has a little spout because to me, this makes it a little easier to see along the way how this feels for my body. So as you are trying out your blend, I like to leave a little bit for the end. Okay. That still feels pretty intense as far as the feel on my skin goes. So I actually am going to go back in with my initial thought of sunflower oil. I'm going to add the sunflower oil now because it has that lighter feel that I'm looking for. The olive oil's in there, the avocado oil's in there. It feels really nice, but I want a little bit more of a dry feel. If you want something that feels even drier, you could go for grapeseed oil, and then also have those wonderful chlorophyll elements, those strong antioxidants in there. So I'm going to do 2 teaspoons, let's see, yes, 2 teaspoons of sunflower. So 2 teaspoons is going to be 0.33 ounces. And once that's in there, I now have 1.5 ounces of face oil. When we are thinking about how to then add essential oils to the face oil, I suggest, I will put this in the chat as well. I suggest no more than a 1% essential oil content. And the way to sort of figure this out and think about it is for 1 ounce of your carrier oil, you're going to do no more than 8 drops. 8 drops of essential oil. So for every 1 ounce, we're going to do 8 drops of essential oil. Since I have 1.5 ounces of carrier oil here, that means I get 12 drops of essential oil. Now, when you're thinking again about the therapeutic qualities that you want to bring into this oil, so far my goal is to have it be hydrating and really like silky feeling, give me that dewy glow on the skin. I think for sure I'm going to go for patchouli, which if you're not a patchouli fan, I would say going for something like lavender is also going to have some similar sort of overlaps in its therapeutic qualities. Both are going to be super relaxing, great for a nighttime oil. But the patchouli, the reason I'm going there is it's a little bit more nourishing and hydrating for the skin than the lavender will be. So remember, I have 12 drops of essential oil. And the reason this is really important to keep in mind, especially when you're just starting to work with essential oils, is they're actually they can be dangerous if they're undiluted on the skin. So you never want to apply, there are some exceptions, but you never want to apply an essential oil straight to the skin. Patchouli I'm going to go for about 4 drops to start with, to see how it reacts with the blend of my carrier oil. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I just got those 4 drops in there. Sorry, the camera wasn't on it. I will switch you over. But when you're thinking about the certain smells, we've got 4 drops in there. I'm going to swirl it around, give it a good drop. Here we go. When you're thinking about adding your essential oils, now that I've got that sort of softening quality in there, the other thing I really know about myself is I love having that balance for bacteria control. And remember, Palmarosa is going to do that. So I'm going to do another 4 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're up to 8 drops. Palmarosa, remember, also has some super awesome regenerative qualities to it. So now not only am I protecting the skin from dehydration, from dryness, from irritation, I'm also going to be adding in that cellular regenerative quality. So I've got 4 drops left to play with. But first, once you've added about half your essential oil, I would say smell your carrier oil and see how it makes you feel. A fun little exercise I like to suggest is when you smell it, see where it actually sits in your body. For me, I'm getting a lot of like heart warmth, and it's a fun little energetic exercise that you can do to really just tune into where that essential aroma profile is taking you. What kind of a message does it have to offer to you in your skincare practices? Because right now, like, we're getting into this time of transition in winter, and then also all of the things I've already talked about with where I want my skincare to be, I think I'd like to add a little lavender at this point, sort of bringing it a little bit more into the relaxed area of the mind. So remember, lavender and patchouli are both fantastic at easing a worried mind. So a lot going on in the world. Lavender isn't going to hurt anything in this blend. So I'm actually going to top it off. I'm going to add those last 4 drops of essential oil. And you could just do 1 at a time until you get to the 12 so that you know you love it. But I feel pretty good about adding those last 4. So adding those last 4, my goodness, I'm good at doing that. Adding those last 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, giving it a little swirl. At this point, I have a pretty cool face oil. The one thing that I still haven't talked to you guys about is how long this is shelf stable for. I can now bottle it up as it is, or I could add something like vitamin E or rosemary antioxidant. Those 2 things would be fantastic at helping to stabilize it further. So instead of this face oil lasting shelf stability wise for the next 4 to 6 months, adding just a drop or 2 of either vitamin E or of rosemary antioxidant, you're going to extend the shelf life by about 3 to 4 months, which is great because I want this to be perfect and not go through any sort of oxidation. So now would be the time that you could add an antioxidant. I'm going to go to a few questions in the chat for you guys. I have sensitive skin, oils that are good to use, places to purchase inexpensive oils when you're on a budget, and oils for good for women over 60. Okay, so sensitive skin. For carrier oils, I would say going for things like avocado, jojoba, sunflower. All of those things are going to be fantastic for sensitive skin. If you fall into the sensitive category, but also want something that has a little bit more of a therapeutic sort of quality when it comes to cellular regeneration and sort of wound healing or inflammatory relief, I would say going for grapeseed oil would be my biggest recommendation. I have kind of a love affair for grapeseed oil. It's a really cool one when you're first starting out to get to know for all sorts of skin types. But I would say if you run on the drier side, going for the avocado, the sunflower, the jojoba, that's going to be a better fit For essential oils, for someone who's sensitive, definitely I would stay away from tea tree to start with. It can be a little irritating, especially dependent upon what else you're combining it with or your carrier oils. I would say Palmarosa for sure is a good one for sensitive skin. It's going to have a really nice nourishing and calming, uplifting effect. Or patchouli, or a combo of the two. Super great for sensitive skin. Purchasing inexpensive oils, great question. I would say, depending on where you are in the world, going to places like there are co-op markets, or we here in Maryland, we have a great place called Mom's, and Mom's is actually where I got this bottle of lavender. Buying essential oils in smaller bottles is really important to start with. The reason being is that you don't want them to oxidize. You don't want them to go bad on you. And every time you open up that bottle, you're introducing a little bit of air into it. So you want to make sure that you're buying smaller bottles until you fall in love with something. Online, Mountain Rose Herbs is really great, but it is going to be a little bit pricier. Another really good one for when you're on a budget, New Directions Aromatics is a Canadian company, so it takes a little while for shipping. Shipping is a little expensive, but they have great quality organic and therapeutic grade oils. I think this bottle of tea tree it's a 4-ounce bottle, 3.3 ounce bottle. I think it was like $15, which is pretty amazing, and it's organic. So, and the quality is just really lovely. They're a great place to also get your carrier oils. But again, like going to your local organic markets, you're going to find a lot of really great things. When it comes to your carrier oils, if they're culinary grade, they're going to be more than fine for cosmetic work, especially when you're first starting out. Later on, when you're buying in big old bulk, there are other places. Email me, I'll tell you. Oil's good for women 60 plus. Olive oil, grapeseed oil, avocado oil. Those are going to be your friends. If you want something else that we haven't discussed here today, sea buckthorn oil is a super, super rich oil. Prickly pear seed oil, sesame seed oil. And for sesame seed oil, don't go for the roasted unless you want to smell like a peanut butter cup. Totally fine if you do, but it will be a little bit of a more intense aroma when you're working with a roasted oil. Also doesn't have the same nutrients that you'd like. What do you recommend for oily and acne prone? For oily and acne prone, I really like to stick with some of my favorites are grapeseed. Grapeseed has those anti-inflammatory qualities to help reduce the inflammation around acne. Also the irritation, that chlorophyll content in there will help with repairing the tissue and the cells so that you're not getting as much scarring. Jojoba oil for sure is a really good one for helping to regulate your oil production in general. So I would say jojoba. And then sunflower is another really, really good one. Sunflower is naturally very high in vitamin E. So it's also a really great one to add to your oil blend if you're not going to add an antioxidant like rosemary antioxidant or a vitamin E oil. What was the essential oil, carrier oil percentage? How many ounces of essential oil to carrier oil? Yes, I will put that in the chat as well. It is for, let me just make sure so that I tell you correctly. So for a 1% essential oil, we are going to say, let's see, 5 to 10 drops for 1 ounce of carrier oil. And the reason that we're going to say 5 to 10 is depending on the aroma, how intense you'd like it to be per ounce of carrier oil. Depending on how intense you'd like the aroma to be, you can go more towards 5. 10 is really the max that you want per 1 ounce of essential oil. Name of the company in Canada, New Directions Aromatics. Mountain Rose Herbs is another really good one. Actually, there's a really, really cool one in Texas called Gritman Essential Oils. It is a family-owned business. They're a little expensive, but Gritman, it's one word, Gritman. It's a little expensive, but not like Mountain Rose, and they have tons of cool things that you can't get anywhere else. So that's a really, really good one. Going back to really quickly, I think that I have answered most of the questions. I'll take another look in a second. Going back to finishing up our essential oil, or I'm sorry, our face oil. So once you have your carrier oil all put together, your aromaceuticals, which are your essential oils, your carrier oils, the last thing that you can think about doing is adding that antioxidant or vitamin E, and then you want to top it off. I love to suggest topping it off in a bottle with a dropper. And the reason that the dropper is my favorite is because it allows for you to really get a good, good dose on the skin. Also, really nice at helping with a face oil. The way you want to use it is only like 3 to 5 drops on slightly damp skin. So massaging it in. And then if you'd like to add a little bit more, you can do up to a dropper full. But I really like doing things in glass because they're not going to have the porous reaction to the essential oils. They're also going to help maintain a lot more of the nutrients. Whenever you're introducing plastic, you're getting a lot of interference. So not something that you really want to do. Okay, let me just double check again. Shelf stable without antioxidant additions. It's going to be, and Taylor, I believe that you're someone that purchased one of the kits. In your kit, for those of you that got them, is a carrot and beta carotene extract that I did. And it's this beautiful, rich red color. That is actually an oil infusion, like what I discussed before, of carrot root in a sunflower oil. That actually has a rosemary antioxidant addition to it. So you can use that if you'd like. But if you're not adding the antioxidant, you're probably going to be knocking off several months of stability time. I would say for this particular batch that I just put together, it has a little bit of sunflower oil in there, but not a ton. So it's probably going to be good for about the next 6 months. It sort of depends on how quickly or how often I'm opening the bottle, because every time you open the bottle, you're introducing oxygen into the product, which is going to destabilize it. One thing we haven't talked about is face oils contain no water. So anytime you're opening your bottle, make sure that you're not introducing any moisture into the carrier oil. This can create bacterial issues, mold, and things you don't want to do. So this is an oil-only product. Don't add anything that's water-based to it. If you're adding the antioxidant, that will add 4 to 5 months. And this is an estimate because dependent upon which oils and which blend you decide to go with, I would say if you were just leaving this bottle closed up, not using it, boo, you want to be using it. But if you were not using it, this would be fine for probably the next 12 to 14 months. However, since we're going to be using our face oils that we're making, I would say use them within about 6 months. For 60 plus women, do we need an antioxidant? How many drops? How many carriers? So it's not age dependent. The antioxidant is going to help with the stabilization of the product. It doesn't really, I guess, when we're talking about using the antioxidant to bump up the shelf time of the product, it's not age related. However, antioxidants introduced into skincare are fantastic, especially for any age, but especially for women that are starting to notice a difference in their skin. We're aging a little bit. We're starting to see some fine lines. So going with something like that grapeseed oil or another carrier oil that has a strong chlorophyll content. And again, identifying that by the tinge of that green in the product. And some grapeseed oils are not going to have that much of a green tinge. So as you continue to work with things, you'll sort of develop a sense, a sixth sense about the quality or understanding. Time of day, best to use the face oil. I would say it depends. Nighttime, you're going to get a little bit more nourishment and regenerative quality. And first thing in the morning, I love to do a face oil first thing in the morning because it's going to add like an added boost of energy to my day. You're creating circulation in the skin, you're waking up the face muscles. So it's a really nice moment to sort of do. I think that we're caught up to the Oh, Dee, I'm sorry that you're not having sound. How many drops of antioxidant oil are you going to add to the mixture? So for this particular mixture, just about 3 drops. So I would say, no, not even 2 drops of essential oil is going, or 2 drops of the rosemary antioxidant or the vitamin E is a great way to go. Vitamin E is pretty thick and gooey, so it's a little harder to control. When you're first starting out, that rosemary antioxidant is a little easier to work with as far as smaller amounts of skincare products when you're making. So it'll drop more like an essential oil will. The vitamin E almost has a waxy, thick feel to it, so it's harder to work with, but both are great. And I think that is about that. Any other questions that we have coming up? Just want to make sure that I've caught everything. A great book, if you want to do a little bit more reading or research, I love to learn. I will never stop learning. Power of the Seed by Susan Parker. I will put that in the chat as well. Power of the Seed. Is a really cool book on carrier oils. She also has an online program for carrier oils that's really great. But she goes into the chemistry where you're able to sort of look at it from more of a scientific approach. I like to say when you're first learning, go with your senses. Your body will tell you so much about the way a product is going to absorb when you're just being present, you're paying attention. And like, as you can see, I will turn my camera back over to this close-up setting for a moment. As you can see, that oil that I initially applied from my blend is already almost all the way soaked in, even though I had several parts of like a thicker oil from the olive oil and from the jojoba and the sunflower. I am almost all the way soaked in. It's given me a nice little dewy glow. That's what I was seeking. It's very, very soft, very, very soft and silky. So that's a wonderful thing because at this point, I feel like I've created exactly what I wanted. So just my biggest tips when you're first starting out, go into your senses, see what your body is telling you as far as the essential oils go. Make sure that you're getting really high quality, either organic or therapeutic grade. And don't just go for a company because they say it's therapeutic grade. Like, make sure that on their website it says either organic or you're able to see that it's been tested so that there's no pesticides or anything. That's really important because our skin is going to absorb the nutrients. It's also going to absorb anything bad that's been put into the process of making an essential oil or a carrier oil. So knowing your quality, listening to your senses, smelling, using those senses, and then also think about the story that you're creating with your product. Is this a carrier oil for you, for a friend? And what's their story? Do they have dry skin? Did they just have a baby? Maybe you want to create something that is really uplifting because they're going through some postpartum. Maybe you want to create a birthday gift in celebration of someone. Think about the story that you want to tell as you're putting your ingredients into your bottle. I'm going to have a lovely little write-up that I can send to each of you on the different essential oils and oils that we talked about. Feel free to put your email into the chat and I will capture that Or you can reach out to me through Lauren at fruitstotheroots.com. I would love to share a little bit more information with you. I feel like we definitely went through a lot of things, and I only got to touch on a little bit here and there. So, um, so much more I can teach, so much more I would love to offer to each of you. I see some emails coming in. I will be absolutely sure to grab those, capture those. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Girls Night In, for coming to the class. This is so much fun, sharing my passion for skincare and for the ritual of really being present with your skin is really important to me. And I didn't have a lot of knowledge, or I didn't have a lot of thought, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I felt so self-conscious growing up of my skin. And the last thing I want people to feel is self-conscious in their bodies. I want you to feel beautiful. I want you to feel full, and also have fun doing something for yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this workshop today. I know I did, and I hope that I get to work with each of you again sometime.